Good evening, good people. This is your host, Calvin Anderson, for the Check In with. And today we have another amazing and exceptional guest today. Her name is Daley, and usually I have introduced our guest, but today I'm going to let her introduce herself, and she's going to let you know more about her and the work she currently does. Jo, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, I've got my cup of tea. I'm ready.
You're comfortable? You're ready?
I'm comfortable and ready. Yeah.
Good. Jo, for the listeners, can you introduce yourself and tell us the work that you do?
Okay, so I'm Daley. I'm 40 years old. I work in private practice, both face-to-face and online. I'm racialised as white British. I'm cisgendered queer woman and I live in Devon. I'm also an intersectional feminist and I work as a psychotherapeutic counsellor. I'm also an NLP practitioner and a leadership and management coach. I run groups and circles and I'm about to run a retreat as well next year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the retreat.
Okay, I'll tell you more about the retreat. So the retreat is a retreat designed by and for mental health practitioners. So I'm working with a colleague, Phoebe, who's also a yoga teacher, and we're putting on this retreat in Dartmoor in Devon for anybody that works as sort of space holders, so mental health practitioners, counsellors, psychotherapists, art therapists, drama therapists, you name it, that kind of collective, but also people that are training as well, just for a space for people to come and to kind of notice what they might be carrying, to release that, and then to work within kind of creative workshops, do some yoga, we're having a sound bath as well, and just to kind of reconnect to themselves, but also to a wider community of other people as well.
It sounds very powerful, Jo. Is this something that you curated or a group of you or?
Yeah, so I've worked on retreats in the past as a cook.
Yeah.
But also as part of that, I've run one, but also run some workshops. So this is me and Phoebe curating this one.
Okay. Shout out to Phoebe.
Shout out to Phoebe.
Maybe one day she'll be on the pod too.
Uh-huh.
Second question for you, Jo.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to get into the field?
Okay, so when I decided to train as a counsellor, it didn't feel very clear. But looking back at my journey, like professionally, it now feels really clear and it feels like there's a really clear thread. So should I start there? Does that make sense?
You can start wherever you like.
So in my early 20s, I worked to support differently abled young people and then moved into supporting young adults. And this was in a variety of places, so schools, large group homes, smaller group homes, and then eventually I worked with individual families to take their adult children out of the bigger homes and make a more sort of personalised one-to-one support for them.
Yeah.
But doing that job, I really noticed the privilege that I had to sort of be invisible in the world and to do what I wanted. You know, I didn't need support. I didn't need to rely on anybody else. And I could go through the world really, really unseen and unnoticed.
Yeah.
And I saw how those disabled parts of people became the only parts that people saw. So they didn't look at their racialized identity, their cultural background. They didn't look at their religious or spiritual stuff. They didn't see the person's skills, you know, their personality, all of that stuff. And it gave me a real deep insight into the sort of boundaries and limitations that they faced. And around that time, I also started my NLP training and I also read Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate, which is about ADHD.
Yeah.
And this gave me a real deeper understanding of like people and how people are made up and how to kind of work with people and a bit of sort of deeper skills and curiosity as well. And also me, how I impacted on that relationship. And I really wanted to kind of bring that into the work. But I came up against kind of, hierarchies of organizations, and actually it didn't work to work like that for the organizations. So it was really difficult. And I think eventually after that, going, sort of 10, 12 years, coming up against those barriers and working really long hours and really challenging things, like burnt out a bit and took a break. This time I was in London, and I did a bit of training for the NHS. And then was like, even that felt like a lot. So got a job in a cafe, a not-for-profit cafe in a church in West Hampstead.
Okay.
And in that church, the vicar had put a post office, a children's play area, and a cafe to kind of save the church from being turned into flats. And I loved that, and it was great. And all parts of my creativity and my sort of the experience in running business came in, and we had a really good time and made a really good success of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I was up there I did that for 3 years, and I loved it. And we provided a support for the community. So we did like free debt advice, and there was loads going on. It was a really nice place to be.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, after 3 years, there was an armed robbery in the church for the post office.
Yeah.
And this really impacted me, sort of my body. And I now understand like the other parts of my experience had been like left unresolved, and then this kind of extra thing on top of that just kind of overwhelmed me. And so I left that job and also left London and moved down to Devon.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years after that, COVID hit, and I felt really like stuck and a bit helpless to support other people, which is something I'd taken a break from, but really felt that. And then noticing and witnessing after the George Floyd murder, all the protests around that, I really just felt this big connection to want to do something that brought me back into social justice and supporting people in community. So I kind of thought, well, if I get a qualification as a counsellor, I can access those people through charities and organisations. I'm more likely to be able to work within them with like a recognised qualification. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, sorry for the long story, but in hindsight, I see the thread through that. I can see that my own sort of experiences led me to kind of working with people and supporting all along. So, yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing. There's obviously two main things you mentioned in terms of the armed robbery that you experienced and also COVID. I won't ask you to divulge details into both because I can imagine that it was a lot to carry and navigate from. What was the main thing the main things you took from those experiences to now be who you are now?
That's a good question. I think from the reaction in my body to the armed robbery and how like that on its own was a thing, but with all the other stuff, I think feeling that in my body gave me a real insight into like, oh, okay, we carry stuff in our bodies and things can trigger that, and kind of where somebody might experience that and be okay, another person might experience that and just be totally derailed. So that kind of gave me that insight.
Yeah.
And the COVID thing, I think, where I just felt disconnected from people, it again gave me insight into how I want to be connected into others, my community, people around me. So, yeah.
That's powerful. That is powerful, Jo. And just a sense of community and connecting and being able to help is such it's a fulfilling thing to do, to, like you said, to be able to reach out, be able to have access now that you are a counsellor, and be able to help with experiences that you've been through, and, in some ways be relatable because of the same emotions and feelings that were brought for you in your experiences too. So no, I commend you on that highly. How has the journey been being newly qualified And can you speak on the training of becoming a therapist?
So I'll start with the training.
Please.
So I'm interested in your experience as well of training, because for me, I remember sort of starting and we started reading all of the theory.
Yeah.
I was like, where's the bit where, you know, women theorists come in, or, and just realizing how Eurocentric and male focused it was.
Yeah.
And then being like, well, we're not really talking about any other people apart from this kind of, it's from those people's perspectives. And I started to get really frustrated with that.
Yeah.
And especially bringing that into the classroom, it kind of caused rupture. People were uncomfortable in it. People didn't want to talk about it. And my group was, we were all white, middle class people. It was equal split between men and women.
Yeah.
But even discussions about what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a woman, just wouldn't happen easily. So they just created this environment of these are the things we don't talk about. And they kind of got buried. And our cultural competence day was like a bolt on one day, which I just thought was just not good enough. So we did some stuff after that, but I'm interested in your experience with training.
If we're talking about from the educational perspective, it was me and another gentleman who's much older than me that were the only males in our classroom.
Okay.
So it was interesting when you said, in terms of the theory being, very heavily male dominated, whereas in the classroom for me it was heavily female dominated.
Yeah.
Which I guess at first I didn't understand, because this is brand new to me. This is a field that I've never been in. But it was a very interesting dynamic, because it felt as if, or should I say, when we was training in the beginning, there were a lot more males. And then slowly but surely, as the degree went on, it just became two of us.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's based upon what we were learning. I don't know if, because we were doing stuff like triads and, PPDs and having discussions and being open about things, if that's why the male students decided to take a step back. Whereas for me, they have that very famous saying that, men shouldn't be emotional, or it's kind of a weakness. But for me, I never ever got that speech. It was always, yes, show your emotions and speak about how you really feel. So that sentence for me was kind of new, brand new, because I didn't really understand it, because I was just taught to always speak and be honest. But in terms of the training, I guess the fear for me, I'm very much practical. I like to learn from a practical point of view. But like you, it was very the textbooks that were like the yellow pages, and just so much information, and to take in. And I was just like, when are we gonna do like the practical aspect of it? Where are we gonna be able to express and be able to be relational? Where is the stuff that we're reading? When are we gonna do it? And we never did. To be honest, the only times we probably got to express is when certain students weren't too happy about what was happening on the course. But it was very interesting, especially because at the time when COVID hit, it was our last year. So we, as everyone knows, when COVID hit, everything shut down and we stayed at home. So you can imagine signing on line to do your degree the last year of it, and not being able to access all the resources, doing a dissertation from home without going to see your lecturer or your supervisor. So ultimately, the training for the course the last year, it was self-taught for me.
Right.
And luckily we myself and a few others managed to get through it and become qualified as we are now.
Oh, God.
But the overall experience, if I kind of reflect on it now as you've asked,
Yeah.
I would say it was very insightful just to see, I guess, how much I actually wanted to be a therapist and the application that I had to put myself through and discipline in order to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, at one point I just felt like, you know what, I've done my level 5 and level 4. Let me just finish now. But I just wanted to see it through and
Yeah.
complete it, and be consistent.
Yeah. I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Because and now being in the field, if we can do post training, it's been very, very, very interesting because being a black male therapist, I've noticed and I've been told, it's a rarity in our field.
Yeah.
And I kept questioning, like, why is it a rarity? And to the point where I've had sessions in different places where I hold, and I've walked into a room and someone's thought I was the client.
Uh-huh. How's that for you?
Um, I think for me, I didn't really process that at first.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, definitely hurtful. But in terms of how I took it, it was more of, no, I'm a therapist too. I'm about to deliver a session. So it's kind of like no, it's not that. And it's interesting because I could wear the same clothes, someone else, but they essentially just thought I was the client. But when I had to say, oh no, I'm here to deliver a session too, they say, my name's Calvin, put my hand out, and they're shocked. So for me, it's definitely hurtful at times because I'm just thinking to myself, am I not allowed to be?
Mm.
Am I not allowed to have this position or title? And now that I do, is it an issue? Is it a problem? Is it something that you don't like or surprised by? But I'm very much a person who well, if I can go back, like my parents were very selfless when it came to just people,
Yeah.
and I've taken that on board. So I'm not really a person who takes things and kind of holds on to it. I'm going to always showcase kindness and love and compassion because, you don't know me just from a hello. You have to get to know me from a conversation or how I react to things. So I always try to react in a kind and considerate kind of way, no matter what is said to me, because I'm always trying to gain understanding, really.
Yeah.
So,
I really admire that. And I think it just demonstrates, though, what you have to deal with that I might not have to deal with, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the majority of BACP registered therapists and counsellors are white, middle class, middle-aged women, heteronormative, So it's like there's this big mass of people that hold that position.
Yeah.
And then anything other than that is viewed as other. It's different. It's diverse. It's out there.
Definitely.
And I think for me in my training, I was like, I don't like that. It doesn't match up.
Yeah.
And I went and did a training with TADF, so the anti-discrimination framework. I don't know if you know, heard of them. Yeah, great. So Sam and Mahmood. And it was super challenging, and it was a lot of stuff, but it was so good for me as a white person, white woman, to do that.
Yeah.
And to recognize that all the stuff that I hold inside that could be put out externally to hurt and harm other people. So just have an awareness of that. And of course, there's always the unknown, unaware, but willing. And I think so many more white therapists should go through that, not to be sort of telling and parental, but it's what it needs for the evolution of the profession, I think.
Wow.
So many amazing voices that have helped and influenced me in my learning that, deserve to be heard.
That's powerful, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess even, as you said, like choosing and the willingness to go and do that and to learn and gain more awareness. And you said something so key in terms of the stuff that you may have in you externally hurting, people. So it's so good to hear, you just say, you went to do that for you, to make sure that if something said or if there's anything, like, you know how to navigate and how to maintain and how to be with people. Um, and I definitely feel like and agree with you just in terms of the evolution of the field. I know a lot more Black therapists coming into the role, and people saying, "Oh, Calvin, like, how long have you been training? I'm about to do the course." I'm just like, welcome. It's such an amazing field to be in terms of, you know, just being a guide for people and being able to share and learn. I think the one thing I love about the field is just the learning aspect. Like, there's so much to just take in and so much to use at your disposal to be able to impact lives in such a positive and freeing way. So
Yeah.
no,
And
sorry.
and I think the more we're understanding about our own diverse identities, right, our own backgrounds, the more that we can pull on that as resource, not only for ourselves as therapists, but for the client. So the client's kind of cultural community, religious or spiritual practices, all those things
Yeah,
are resources for support throughout the process.
definitely.
Yes.
So for support, it's key, right? You know, we want to make sure that when we're chosen by a client to be the person that they can confide in and be vulnerable with, that we have so much resources and tools that we're able to enable that on a continual basis. So no, I fully agree with you. Fully agree with you on that. Joe, can you explain your approach and specialism, and why did you decide to go down that route?
Okay. Well, as you said a bit earlier, I'm still quite newly qualified. So
Yes.
I qualified in July last year, my level 4, and then I did my level 5, which I completed in August this year. So I'm quite shiny and new. I still feel like that.
Yeah.
But I was really lucky in that when I did my placement, I got a full-time job in the charity that I worked for, which was a domestic abuse charity. So I did just over a year there full-time.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of helped me hone my approach, I guess. And at the same time as me doing my 5, which was kind of a much deeper exploration of me and the work. So I've tried to kind of think about what my approach is. And when I sat and thought about it, I was like, it's, when you're writing all those essays and stuff in the training, it's like the theoretical approaches and all of that. But actually for me, it's much more like personal and involves, I don't know, my spiritual self, I guess. So I practice yoga. I've done that for 20 years. And that's really taught me about my connection and disconnection with my body, my breath, myself.
Yeah.
I also practice Japanese meditation that came around after World War II.
Yeah.
And that's about like peace for humanity. And it's in that peace, it's about you connecting to yourself, but also to the rest of humanity and nature. So it's like you're not individual in the world, you're connected, and that connection supports you and supports other people. So that's kind of like my underneath stuff.
Right.
And when I work with people, I don't just see them as an individual working on self-improvement and then they're out and they're, back to work and being a shiny person in the community, but it's more like getting that connection back, that person back to themselves, back to their community, their families, the people around them, nature. And I do that through kind of what I was talking that sort of about that anti-oppressive framework. So who are you? What's your identity? How does systems impact on you?
Yeah.
I really lean into a bit of existential stuff. So like, who are you? What does it mean to be you? And that there is no right answer. There's no one truth for that, right? It's different for every single person.
Definitely.
And then I work a lot with body, so somatic. So where are people holding stuff in their body? How does that show up? And really trying to center to a connected, calm space for somebody before we sort of go into any of the work. Because as I mentioned, kind of working for the domestic abuse charity, I support people that have been through domestic abuse, violence, sexual assault, sexual abuse, a lot of traumatic stuff. So I always make sure to set up that kind of internal safety with people. And sort of influenced by Myra Khan, I can't promise a safe space for anybody. Like I just can't. That we have to work on that together.
Yeah.
And so that's always really key at the beginning of my work, to set that up internally for somebody.
Yeah.
And I guess it's around exploring for people the impact of their experience on their behaviors, their ways of being, the dependencies they might have, the patterns they get into relationally or with themselves. And then trying to find these kind of hidden parts of self that are really powerful, strong, connected, useful, helpful parts.
Yeah.
That might be buried under other ways that are less kind of healthy. And also noticing the external messaging coming in, as well as the internal messaging that we can say to ourselves. And yeah, so that's kind of a bit of a wishy-washy way. But and again, connecting people to those resources. I think just I'm not an expert in that person. That person is the expert, and we work together to find out the right way of being for them where they are now.
Hi, this is Jo Daley, and you're listening to the Check-In With podcast.
Because the therapeutic journey is collaborative, right?
Exactly that. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a wishy-washy way at all, Jo. I think that's your process. That's your way of working at present, and I know you'll build upon that and make it even greater. I didn't get to unpack with you about the training. You asked me about the training, but you didn't get to speak even more. I know you spoke about the textbook, you spoke about theory. Tell us more about the training. What did you hope for that you didn't get? And if you could go back and receive the training from scratch, how would you have wanted to learn it?
Okay. It's difficult, right? Because going through the training and you're having therapy and supervision changes us.
Yes.
I'm changed, like I'm different.
Yeah.
And I've learned humility. I've learned how to regulate myself. I've learned how to sit in discomfort in a different way.
Yeah.
I couldn't do when I was doing the training. I was not happy. Not happy with it. And I'm kind of proud at how I confronted that. Like I spoke out. I challenged it. I was really pushing for a change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I enjoyed it, and I made some really deep connections with people on the course.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it's a really difficult question to answer, really. But yeah, I think I did the best I could at the time with where I was.
Yeah.
And now in some of the subsequent trainings that I've done, I can sit in a much more observing, curious, regulated space.
Yeah. No, you answered perfectly. That's not so don't worry, you did that. Yeah. I can hear that, because you've gone on to take on further trainings as well, your mindset and the knowledge you've taken and acquired is been substantial. And like you said, having a supervisor and having a therapist you're changed now. Like your whole mindset is rewired because you've had these experiences and these conversations and the dialogue. So no, that's amazing. Which segues really nicely into the next question, which is, Jo, does a therapist need a therapist, and why?
I'm going to say yes, with a big exclamation mark.
With a big exclamation mark.
And a challenging therapist, right? So someone that challenges us.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like anyway. And I think I'm probably a bit of a challenging therapist in a gentle way, but it's like, yeah. And I think the deeper we can go, so when stuff comes up and we connect with therapy for ourselves, that means we can then hold a deeper sort of exploration with our clients. The deeper we go, the deeper they can go. And I think that constant self-inquiry, what's going on for me, how is this showing up, all of that be really useful. And going in and out of it when you need it, not just staying in it because it's like this is the thing you do, but kind of going in and out. And I think aside from seeing a therapist, for me, there's other stuff on the side, which is I've done holotropic breath work, like somatic stuff. I've had acupuncture, meditation groups, peer supervision. All of that alongside feels like therapy too, in a way.
Yes,
Like
definitely. Yeah.
that helps me, holds me, kind of carries me through. And there's the Angela Davis quote that's like, anyone who's interested in making changes in the world also has to learn how to take care of themselves. And I think for us as therapists, I can't speak actually to all therapists, but for me, like, I think I could maybe get in a rut or a way of being if I'm not challenging myself, but also not looking after myself. So I see therapy as that. What about you? What do you think?
That's a very good question. I definitely agree with you, Joe. I feel like as if we're going to be doing work where on a daily basis, clients new and old come to us and discuss and explore various areas of their life, which some parts may be triggering because it's accessing our own lives.
Yeah.
Where does that emotion and those triggers go if we don't have someone else to spill onto? We're just going to be like a walking cup that's just going to spill on the road if you want to put in that visual. So I definitely agree that a therapist definitely needs a therapist because, and you know, of the other vices that you mentioned in terms of somatics and having a supervisor and having a good support system, because we can't carry everything.
Exactly.
We can't carry everything, and before you know it, if unchecked, your client's trauma can subconsciously, unconsciously, consciously become your own, and you're wondering, why am I reacting in this way? Why am I being this way with this person? What's happened? And ultimately what we've done is we've become the client. So I think it's so important to have a therapist or someone who is experienced in the field, and like you said, a challenge. And I'd love you to talk further about a challenging therapist, but someone that's going to challenge your thought process only to get you better, and because they can obviously see that, okay, this person's on this level, let me take them a bit higher. So yeah, I would say having a therapist is good to not only challenge, but to someone else to take the load off your hands, and you know, you to be able to navigate life properly without bleeding on everyone. So yeah, talk about a challenging therapist job, because it was so interesting when you said that, because I just said a therapist, but you added the challenging part. Can you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah. So I guess that comes from when I did my NLP practitioner training, I was like 21, 22.
Okay.
And the guy that did it was called Brian Morton. It's down in Dorset where I lived. And he was like embodiment, or he's like he wouldn't speak unless it needed to be spoken, very clean language, couple of words.
Yeah.
You know, it's very deliberate in the world.
Yeah.
He was super kind, very generous, really giving guy. And at the same time could just absolutely call you out on something, or name something that, you know, is not in your awareness, but it's there. And I really learned that skill, or started to learn that skill from him.
Yeah.
Of creating this like connection with somebody where they know you've got their best interests at heart. They know that, they can feel it.
Yeah.
And then to kind of just be like, and what's going on with that? You know, what's that about? What's that? And there's a Janina Fisher talks about disagreeing with clients. So when they say, oh, well, I'm not very good at this, or da 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 da, you say, oh, I'm going to disagree with you there. And that disagreement creates this sort of break in the kind of, you know, the kind of just going along with it. And you cause a disconnect in that moment where somebody's like, oh yeah, why do I say that? And so I think that challenge creates that moment where we recognize our own nonsense in a way, or own patterns or behaviors. We can kind of just see it in from a different perspective, somebody else's perspective, or hear ourselves say those things, which I think can be really powerful.
Yeah. Even when you said it just now, I felt myself, even though you're not saying it to me, I felt myself being like, I could feel the challenge. Like it made me want to be like, or rethink my thoughts. That is very powerful. I disagree with I think that's, is that something that you use with clients?
Yeah, so I'll say, I'm going to politely disagree with that thing you just said there, or, do you want can I give you my perspective on that, or do you want to hear what I might have to say? So mostly consent with people, and the kind of cheekier way comes in when I've known someone for a long time in therapy. So a bit of, look, come on, we've been here, or, that kind of, that way of being. But yeah, I find it useful when my therapist and my supervisor has done that with me. And so, and I've seen that it works. It actually connects the relationship in a deeper way.
Challenge to grow and make the connection even deeper,
And it's kind of safer as well. Like, I feel safe if I feel that people are being authentic with me and not just going, oh, that sounds like a good idea. If people are challenging me a little bit, or sort of inquiring deeper, then I trust that person a little bit more. I'm like, okay, something else going on here.
That's powerful. Challenge. Yeah. Am I a challenging therapist? Probably in the most gentlest way, probably, but I definitely feel that's probably something I can incorporate even more, especially when I can see the pattern, or I know this person, and I've been working with them for a very long period of time. I think I was very skeptical in the beginning of challenging clients, only because I didn't know how they would take it. And I was just very kind of concerned with, the reason for why they're coming to therapy.
Yeah.
So I had it in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, I can't really challenge this person, because if I say this might trigger this that they've said, or bring up this. But like you said, having that polite consent and saying, do you know what? I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. And asking for that allowance to have your perspective, I think is so crucial.
And I also think there's some safety as well. So specifically around domestic abuse or abusive relationships.
Yeah.
If a client is describing something, we need to do that. We need to challenge. We need to say, that sounds like abusive behavior, or that sounds, that's the kind of gentle challenge again that comes in with that felt sense of love and okayness. But actually, we need to call that out. We need to kind of talk about that.
Saying it for what it is. But coming from a place of, like you said, of care and genuine, authenticity for the individual. So no, I agree with you on that 100%, Joe. Joe, what makes a good therapist?
So this feels like what makes a good song, right?
Okay. I like that. Go ahead.
And I think it's like, if there's a song that you can put on in the right time that makes you feel like you're seen and heard, understood, connected, then that's the right song for you at that time. It might not be the right song in like 2 weeks' time, or 5 weeks' time, 5 years, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think a good therapist is the right fit for you at the time for what you're going through.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to talk about Myra Khan here, and her reminder that we can never assume that we're safe for others. Just never assume that. And to have that acknowledgement of how parts of our identity might be unsafe for some people. And to make that okay to talk about in the space.
Just speak further on that, because that's very, very deep in terms of actually knowing that there's parts of us that are not even safe, but being allowed to bring that into the room. Speak more on that, please.
So if I'm working with somebody that is from I don't know, racially minoritized group, for example, or a person who might be Muslim, in the first session, I'm going to call out that I'm a white British woman,
Yeah.
and I acknowledge what that might mean for that person. I don't know, I can't understand that, but I acknowledge the power and privilege I hold in that.
Yeah.
And also the assumptions that I might be making or that person might be making about me in terms of my power and my privilege.
Yeah.
So it's kind of out, it's there. I'm calling it out. I'm saying there it is. There's the stuff.
Yeah.
But also for, parts of my identity that might be hidden. So for example, my queerness is a hidden thing. I can hide that. And there might be a client that I work with who's quite homophobic.
Right.
Now, I am kind of unsafe for that person in a way because I challenge their belief or their beliefs. So it's kind of acknowledging that. It's like, okay, I've got this part of me. If I came out and said it, it could trigger that person if I'm not careful with it. So yeah, it's all those kinds of things, I think.
And I guess that even, speaks on the care that we must implement when we have clients or when we are beginning with clients. And I guess, not even guess, that enforces that even more to say it like out loudly rather than it just being in their faces, just actually saying, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And, you actually have the choice if you would like to work with me or if you don't.
Exactly that. And it's that bringing yourself enough into the relationship, not just being this blank slate therapist who has no identity, no thoughts, no feelings, no experiences. Then I'm here. This is part of me. How are you doing with that? And at the same time managing the self-disclosure stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, I think when it comes to identity, that's the bits we kind of need to be more open about.
Joe, I would definitely agree with that
Yeah.
because again, this is for the client and for ourselves. It's in some ways a weight lifted off our shoulders that we don't have to pretend. We don't have to hide behind the titles or the accreditations or the name. This is me.
Yeah.
Or I like to use the analogy of this is all my cards on the table and they're not, like you can see them. Pick anyone, you can see them. So I think that's so crucial, and I agree with you 100% in terms of doing that more with our clients. Like just from the very first session or even the initial call, if we want to go as far as that, just so that they can choose.
Exactly that.
So no, I think that's powerful. That is a very powerful point. Thank you for sharing that with me. Joe, what have you learned most about yourself since becoming a therapist?
Right. Well, I've learned lots of things. Some of them, so I've learned how to be uncomfortable with myself, how to be uncomfortable with thoughts I might have, feelings, ways of behaving in the world. I've learned to really be with that.
Yeah.
I've learned to acknowledge how my experiences have shaped me, but also the power that I've got to shape my future in that. It's up to me. I have learned to stand up for myself and for other people with humility. Like I've sort of said a bit earlier, like I can do it in a more humble way.
Yeah.
Kindness. I've learned how sensitive I am. Did not realize I'm so sensitive. And with that, I've learned how to look after myself, how to regulate my system, how to self-care, how to take it easy. I've learned how to take accountability and autonomy for the changes that I want to see, and not to wait for other people to do it, but to get on with it.
Yeah.
And in that, connect with other people as well. So collaborate with people.
Collaboration.
Yeah. And most of all, I've learned how to build trust with myself. Trust.
Which is a very powerful and necessary thing to do. Because if you can't trust you, how can someone else trust you.
Mhm.
Wow. I feel like I just had like a CPD from you, Joe. You've given so much information and so much insight that I know the listeners and fellow therapists will take home and
Well, it's really kind of you to say.
apply. No, it was so much. I think you said things that I haven't heard in detail before, even in regards to, the challenge. I think that's something that needs to be spoken about a lot.
Yeah.
And also, when you mentioned about knowing that there's parts of us that are unsafe, but bringing it to the table for the client to see and for them to decide. I think those are two crucial things you said, and also about having a therapist. To be honest, every question that you answered, there was so much to take from. So I really appreciate your time today and sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate all your questions. It was really good for me to sit and reflect and think. So thank you so much for asking me to do it.
No, it's been my pleasure, Joe. Joe, before you go, there's a few rapid fun questions that I ask my guests before they leave.
Okay.
What's your favorite season and why?
Now, so I love autumn. And I think it's because I was born in September, but I like the slowing down.
How important is the slowing down, Joe?
It's very important. When we've had, I think summer is always busy and hectic and doing lots of stuff. And yeah, this is the kind of the cozying in, hunkering down, replenishing ourselves, getting ready for the next year.
I like that. What is your favorite quote?
Ooh. I'll tell you, there's a Desmond Tutu one that I was thinking about.
Okay.
Actually. And it's something to do with if the elephant has its foot on the tail of the mouse and you are neutral, the mouse won't appreciate your neutrality.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why that one?
I think because we were talking about bringing parts of ourselves out, right? Bringing it into the room. And it's like that, there's that saying, isn't there, the elephant in the room? And when you can see the elephant and you're all talking about it and you can see what the elephant is doing and you're all talking about it, that feels quite important. Yeah.
What is your favorite technique within your approach?
I really love to set up the physical safe space with my clients through guided meditation. I really like doing that with them because it feels like a moment where the client has to trust me and I have to trust myself and them and our space. And to watch somebody's body calm and for them to feel connected to themselves and them to come out of that and say, whoa, I haven't felt like that for a really long time, or I didn't know I could feel like that, just feels really important and powerful to me.
And last question, Joe. If you had to pick a location to work remotely with clients, where would it be?
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Then my first thought was there was a temple that I went to in Japan.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but it was so beautiful. And it was like on the edge of a mountain and there were these huge wooden supports and it was all made out of wood. It was absolutely gigantic. And it was just the most beautiful place that I've ever been in my life. And so I could perch myself in there with my laptop and be quite happy.
It sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was an amazing place. Yeah, beautiful.
Amazing. Joe, it has been a pleasure hosting you today. Bless you in everything that you do moving forward. And I know there will be even more greater things to talk about when you come on the podcast next time.
I'd love to.
Joe, where can people find you?
So you can find me at www.joedailey.com. And there's also the details of the retreat on there as well. But I'm also on like Psychology Today and Counselling Directory.
Perfect. Which I'll put the links in
Thank
before
you.
your episode so that people can
Yeah.
reach you. So yes, we've had Jo Daley today. Like I said, I felt like I've had a CPD, and I'm sure the listeners have had too. She gave so much information and so much insight. So we thank Jo today. I've been your host, Calvin Anderson, for the Check In With podcast. Jo Daley, have a good night. God bless.